That's so interesting, the observation, the way you describe it.
Yeah.
What are you
Well,
focusing on?
because we're unconsciously doing that all
Yeah.
the time. So all I'm doing is making it conscious.
Yeah.
So I say to people, you can actually look at the paintings in a similar way.
Mhm.
At first you just see colors and shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you watch them, they start to tell you about space and about characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could just stop and get lost in one little area that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And just stay there, that's fine too. Because that's how we look at the world.
Yeah.
Our eyes might just get fixated on one thing.
Mm-hmm. True.
So it's
Very
that
true.
story of how we visually experience
Yeah.
that I'm so interested in.
And what we make important.
And see how abstract that is.
Mhm.
And yet I'm putting it in a space that is eventually a kind of recognizable. At least a space, if you give it enough time.
Mhm.
You can sort of see where you might be. You're often like a bird up and a little bit elevated. I like bridges and high buildings and waterfront, because then you can see out like that.
We were talking about how in Eastern art, often the person is very small if they're in the landscape, but it's really about the landscape. So it's such a different conception of what a figure is in
It's
art.
really influenced
I
me.
feel that.
Like I go to the Far Eastern wing at the Met. I just love to look at those scrolls for that very reason. Those tiny little figures, those giant scapes, and then the little poems, I guess, are always something very accessible, like drunk all night, top of mountain, rainy morning, fog. And I'm like, this 1123 AD. And I think, I could say that right now. And that shift in time is magic again, right?
Yeah.
They describe that moment using that poem. They describe that small moment.
That small moment,
That's so
and
nice.
it's universal and timeless. But it has to have that drawing with it too.
Right.
Have you done self-portraits?
A few. The one that was the most satisfying was one I did that was 8 feet high.
Wow.
My whole head.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I'm an alien. You could if you go to my website later, it's called City on My Mind, and it's basically my face floating over the Hudson River, and there's
I remember.
my hair's like this, and there's a cityscape
Yeah,
up here.
and the two eyes, one is up, one is down.
That's it.
That's
You've seen
impressive.
it. Yeah, and the eyes are kind of floating, but it really looks like me.
Oh.
People that see, the best proof that looks like me is like a dear friend's 6-year-old son came. He was looking at the painting at a show I had here in New York, and he came and tugged on me, and he said, "That doesn't look like you. You didn't paint that right. It doesn't look like you." And I thought, oh my God, I really painted it well. And he was acknowledging it was me
exactly.
and telling me I did a bad job.
Yeah.
Like, he totally got it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Isn't that good? Oh, the mouths of babes. Yeah, wisdom from the mouths of... That's it, yeah.
That's it?
You got it. But that
Oh, wow.
painting is 8 feet tall.
Oh,
So when
yeah,
you're
I love it. It's
standing in
amazing.
front of it, you can't quite see the face.
Oh, this is so cool.
And you only see it when you go far away. You see like maybe an eye.
This is so
Yeah.
cool.
So
It's amazing.
listening to you, I feel a lot of joy, right? While
Yeah.
we're doing engagement, but it can't all be like that.
Well,
So
I'm
how
not-
do you get out of your way? Have you had a process? How do you move yourself forward? How do you know what you like?
Oh,
what you don't?
I don't know. I wonder that every day.
Every day. So
And my
you
life
just
is
let
kind
it
of
go?
hell.
Yeah.
I just came from my husband's been in the hospital rehab again for the last year and 2 months. And I just came from there. We were about to get him home. He got a terrible bone infection yesterday. So I just was there. I'm going to go back. I mean, And yet my paintings, as you said, when I saw my last show in Toronto, which was just a few months ago, like late spring, I walked in there because I don't see the show hung until I get up there. You know, we have a sort of plan, but she knows what she's doing. And I thought, oh, these are so joyful and enthusiastic. What the hell? My life's been hell. Where did that come?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's the joy of the escape or release into creating, just into creating. The kind of love you feel when you're really making something where, what I mean love is like a connection to other people, like you're telling them something and it's working, and that gives me tremendous joy. It makes me feel totally not alone.
Is that something you had from the beginning when you made the work, or you grew into that?
I have only recently been able to verbalize this even clumsily. I always knew I had it, and most of us do. When something's going right, we dance around the studio. We feel like this incredible flow. We feel like, you know, when you're dancing to dancing in the street to some really good rock and roll, and you just feel like you're in this other space, but you're also with all these people dancing. It's just it's completely non-hierarchical place that everyone is. I feel like that when the painting goes well. Even though you're alone in your studio, it's funny. But that's, I think, what creative work is. That's why it's sort of, you go back to it and back to it and back to it. It's the place to find the answer, for me.
And you trust that it is.
I trust that it is because it's been there so many times, but it's a battle to get to it every time, every single time. Because I've tried to rely on what I've known. You know, I've tried to use something that worked in the last one, and it just doesn't work. I have to at least pretend, or at least act like I'm reinventing it every time. I just can't get around. Even when I did that, I did like a mural, 35-foot mural. It went from that corner to that corner.
My God.
It
Was that in the
nuts.
video for Gorky's granddaughter? No.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
no.
There was something
No.
that was turning the corner in that one.
There was a smaller painting.
Okay.
But on my website, there's a whole thing of the Toronto mural. And there are some studio shots, which are hysterical, because it was in a corner, but the mural was going to be flat, so I didn't even know if it was going to work flat when it got there. But, oh, I loved it. I loved doing that. I love doing huge paintings like that. I mean, it took forever, but it's just wow.
What is it about the size that you like?
I guess it starts to bring movement into reality, you know, like you're physically moving. But you can make all the complex things, like that painting was called, oh geez, I can't even remember it. It only was finished a few years ago. It was basically a painting from going from night to dawn. So I could have it was like a movie in stop motion.
Was it going from dark to light?
Dark to light. I'm left-handed, so I tend to paint from right to left. So the whole left side was all kind of whited out, and the night side was the way it looks at night, which is almost like an X-ray of the city. Everything negative is positive, and only thing you really see are lights. So it was it was really fun, but it just, you know, I love film as well, so I guess it's like I was making a little movie.
I'm curious, is your husband also an artist?
No, he's a sociologist, he's a political activist, sociologist. Was his paying job, but But we meet in the I'm very political, so we meet there. And also, you know, honestly, sociology, philosophy, it's not that far.
Yeah.
It's still like big picture,
Right.
ideas, abstract, all that. We met in a diner in the neighborhood.
Oh.
How long ago?
90 or 88. 1988. I had just come, I'd gotten free tickets to see the Mets clinch the pennant in 1988. I'm a baseball fan. And I was high on that, and he was in the diner and some mutual friends. And the diners here used to be everyone toast to each other. There's a few that still are. So we, you know, it was like we all talked to each other, and this was a new person. And I didn't even notice that he was like, oh, who was that? Yeah. But yeah.
Who inspires you? And who is your favorite artist?
Well, I don't have lists. I'm an anti-list. I'm very anti-linear, hierarchical. I like, you know, just ask me which is my favorite color. I can't do that. What's the best color?
Yeah.
It's a silly thing, right? I just love, if it's a good artist, I tend to really love them. So it's like really bad because I love everyone.
That's a good question. Answer.
I'm a real sucker. Like I'll go in, I teach and